All right, and welcome back. Continuing on with the rudder, this is finally unwrapping the new trailing edge. Um, as I've talked to before, the original trailing edge I used too thick of a double-sided tape and decided to redo it. So had a little bit of an adventure trying to get the original trailing edge out, and in the process accidentally bent it and made it useless. So here I am with a new piece. The cautionary tale here being, make sure that you're looking ahead. There's a few notices, not in the plans. They just basically said use double-sided tape. But if you go on to the Vans Aircraft forums, there are several postings in there that had discussed, to make sure that you use this specific type of double-sided tape that actually Vans they call out in one of their listings also, and they have it listed in their parts catalog also online. So it's just a matter of going online, finding the right tape. I ordered it off of Amazon, I think, and it was $15 a roll, and that one roll will be enough for this trailing edge. But it's a lot easier to get it done right the first time. Pulling out the double-sided tape and making sure I got all of it was not an easy task, but nonetheless, here I am. So now I'm in the process of starting over with the trailing edge, trying to install it with the rudder already pretty much assembled. I've got everything is riveted together. There's a couple issues left, the trailing edge being one, and then the rudder horn brace being the other. And that'll be in my next video, is correcting that issue. So this process with the rudder already being assembled, basically what I end up doing is just applying the double-sided tape, leaving the backing on the outside adhesive area, and then sliding in place, and then just pulling back the backing from the adhesive as I install it, and it worked okay, but it's definitely a lot easier to do the first time around before you've assembled the two halves together. So here I'm just putting everything together, trying to hold the piece in place. Going to do the drilling, match drilling through the trailing edge. It talks about basically drilling through the center cord, perpendicular to the center cord of the trailing edge. And the best way I could figure to do that was to just put it in place and match drill through the whole trailing edge assembly. And I think that got it pretty close, pretty well to what it needed to be. I think the first attempt, the first trailing edge, I think that I had actually did it perpendicular to the surface, like you do with the countersink. And after looking back, that's the wrong way to do it. Obviously, you drill at the wrong angle. So this is the right way to do it. I'm fairly certain. That's what I did, and it seemed to have worked. So just go through, match drill all the holes, and then shift all the clecos over one and do it again. And that's what I'm doing here. And then once I'm done with this, I will take it over to the drill press, and that's where I will cleco it to the old trailing edge, and in the opposite direction, basically making a parallel surface, taking the two trailing edges, folding them over on top of each other, or setting them on top of each other so that the two surfaces are perpendicular or are parallel together, and clecoing them in place. That way you have a surface that's perpendicular to the drill bit, the countersink bit. because you want the countersinks obviously to be perpendicular to the surface of the piece. So that's what I'm going to end up doing here. I'm trimming it to the correct dimension, and then now I'm taking the old piece, cleco it to the new piece, and make it so that I can countersink the whole thing. And again, just making sure I'm trying to make myself get into the habit of triple checking the instructions, just because it's bitten me so often now that I need to get into that habit a little more. It's not a fail-safe. It's still can bite you. There's a time or two where I looked at it 3 times and still misread it. So you really got to take your take your time and make sure that you understand the step, and then it makes sense. That's part of the reason I had to reorder my front spar for the horizontal stabilizers. Even though I read the instructions 3 times, I misunderstood what the instructions were telling me as far as where to drill size number 30 holes. And so I ended up doing a whole row incorrectly and had to reorder the piece. So rereading the instructions 3 times, it may not necessarily save you, but it gives you a better chance. So anyway, going through the process here, just countersinking all the holes on both sides, and then once you get that done, then you put it back into the piece, and this is then when I will attach the double-sided adhesive. So the rudder itself it's not difficult. There's a lot of pieces there that you have to make sure you do in order. Don't read a group of steps in the instructions and then formulate your own path on how you're going to get those steps done. Make sure you're doing those steps in order completely before you move to the next step. That's the biggest reason why I have to redo the rudder horn brace area there, is because I had riveted the brace in place before I was supposed to, and it cut off access to the 4 blind rivet holes that I ended up needing to put blind rivets into. But other than that, the process, it's a fun process. I've enjoyed this so far immensely. I started in right before Halloween. I've projected to finish around Halloween this coming year. I was projecting to take about a year. But with how fast I've gone through these portions, I don't think that it's going to take me that long. I think that I will be done mid-summer at the latest. Now, I'm looking at a possible career change, staying with the same company but going into a different department, and that might limit my time to be able to work on the airplane. But I still think that I'll have a lot of time off to be able to work on this. So we'll see how it goes. I think the funding is going to be the biggest hurdle at the moment. As I've said before, I'm trying to pay for this as I go. When I'm done, I don't want to have anything owed on this airplane. And I'm projecting it's going to cost, with the engine and avionics and all the kit parts and all the various stuff, I'm projecting it's going to be about $100,000 to $110,000, give or take. But I figure to spread that over 5 years or so. So it's doable. It's just a matter of setting money aside throughout the year. So this is the double-sided tape. It's from 3M. I think this one, I want to say it's an inch wide, maybe 2 inches wide, but I think it's an inch wide. It's wider than the piece anyway. So I'm just making sure that I'm lining up the trailing edge with the edge of the tape and then I just turn it over and trim off the excess amount with my razor. And again, leaving the backing on the one side, the exposed side, because I'm going to slide it in place, and then as I put it in, I will pull the backing off and work it that way. So now I'm just applying the other side, and I'll do the same thing I had before and trim off the excess amount of double-sided tape. Okay, and then just here, just like I said, getting the start and on the one end there of pulling the tape back, or the backing off of the double-sided adhesive there, and slide the rest of the trailing edge in and working it through. And then once I get it installed all the way up, then I will start clequing, pull back some of the backing, and then I'll put some more clecos in and just kind of work through. The caution here is you don't want to pull too hard, because you don't want to rip the paper and then have to dig to try to restart again. So just go through and pull a little bit at a time, apply the clecos, and work toward the very bottom here. And it actually wasn't as difficult as I had imagined. And I was able to get through it without too much issue. Right there, I did accidentally pull the paper too much, so I had to back off a little bit, try to grab the edge of the paper, and was finally able to get it with the. I think I was able to use it with the X-Acto knife there and finally pull it out. So that's what you got to be careful of if you're doing it this way. As you're pulling the paper, if it tears, then you just have to try to dig to get the new piece to continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and let this video end up and run out here. Again, for those who continue to watch these videos, I do appreciate it. If you can, hit that like button for me, and I'll continue putting these videos out. And we'll see you next time.